Nicki Minaj posted this tweet saying that her cousin's friend in Trinidad uh, became impotent. His testicles got swollen and lost his girlfriend that he was going to marry after the vaccine. To be clear, Nikki didn't say she was an anti-vaxxer. I don't think anybody said she did. She said that she was just asking a question. What's wrong with asking a question? Nothing wrong with that. But I think there was a series of tweets, but I think that tweet specifically really upset some people. And I covered this already. Joyanne Reed called her out, didn't call her a name, didn't curse at her, but she said that, I'm paraphrasing here, that, you're encouraging, that may not be the right language, of people not getting vaccinated. Nikki interpreted that as an attack on her. So Nikki began to call her a bunch of racial slurs. And, this, Reese, and Roland's like this too, Mr. Roland Martin. I don't call black folks coons and Uncle Tom. Just not my style. I know other folks don't mind it, but and she called her Uncle Thomasina, Aunt, whatever it was. But it's actually gotten a little bit deeper because, like you always say, Reese, disinformation, it spreads, and it can be dangerous, especially in the Caribbean, where they don't have the same kind of access to the vaccine and they have a low vaccination rate. The Trinidad and Tobago health minister, Dr. Terrence, I cannot say his last name, Deaslin, I don't know. He had to respond to Nicki Minaj. They actually had to do research to see, is this true that somebody did become impotent or have swollen testicles because of the vaccine? And they said there's no information whatsoever, nothing saying that this is accurate. I want to play a clip of Nicki Minaj on IG. The White House reportedly invited her to come and have a conversation. Amazing access, right? Reportedly invited her, reached out to her, and then they rescinded the invite allegedly. And so here's Nicki Minaj ranting about that, and then also to add to it, she retweeted a video of Tucker Carlson, who has said, heinous things when it comes to race. What is it? White replacement theory. I mean, I can go on and on. And who has been, spewing out anti-vax information. But she retweeted it and folks called her out saying, do you know that this is not the kind of guy that's on your team? But she didn't care. So this is edited down. There's a lot of foul language in here, just letting y'all know. But it's edited down a lot. But I just wanted to give you a couple clips of what she's saying. Listen to this.
Don't you see what's happening? And y'all sitting around fucking laughing? And y'all sitting up here kiki-keying and laughing and not realizing what's right in front of your fucking eyes. AKA, don't question me, you black bitch. Don't question what's going on, ho. Fuck, you can't see that. Gonna use this Uncle fucking Tommyana. And so many of y'all got y'all say all this shit on the internet, wouldn't fucking make a fucking peep in real life to these artists that y'all tweet and comment every fucking day. And I see why a lot of celebrities keep themselves bubbled up. You understand? We're living in a place without free healthcare. So anybody in this country has the right to question anything about their health. Because if your health mattered that fucking much, there would be free fucking healthcare, bozos. Don't tell me I can't agree with a Republican or I can't agree with this person, I can't agree with this one. Do you see the first person who went out there to attack me? A black woman.
Reese Colbert, founder of Black Woman Views. She says she's being attacked because she's a black woman. She was attacked by a black woman. She's attacked. Something in there about healthcare. Your thoughts?
Okay, well, she's delusional. And a lot of this could have been, it could have been a quick little kiki, I guess, if she had just said, oh, well, you guys are right. That does sound ridiculous. My bad. It's amazing the way she is quadrupling down on a story that is not her personal story. I mean, it's her sister-in-law, cousin, uncle, baby daddy, boyfriend, uncle, cousin over there in Trinidad told somebody who had told somebody who had told somebody. some whole second, third hand, fourth hand information, and you're doubling, tripling down like it happened to you personally. I don't understand. Somebody quoted to me, they said it's something called fallacy. And basically it's when you're so invested because you've spent this amount of time and energy trying to, you know, validate it, that you just keep going and going and going and going on that path. Like abort mission, Nicki, like it's not a conspiracy against Nicki Minaj. You're not that important. Yes, you have 22 million followers, and unfortunately, you have a lot of people who are going to follow behind you, and you're going to look at being anti-vaccine as a crusade. I stand with Nicki. I've seen the hashtag on that. But a lot of people corrected Nicki Minaj. It wasn't just Joy Reid, but it's funny that she chooses to go after Joy Reid. You know, it was talked about by a number of people. What I also noticed is that a number of Black women, you know, Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton, Dr. Oni, I forget her last name at the moment. I want to say Blackstock. A lot of women, Black experts reached out to Nicki Minaj and said, hey, let's have a conversation about it. She ignored all of them. She ignored all of the people who could actually have a conversation to address these questions that she claims people are not allowed to ask, even though hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent by the United States government, by various parties to outreach to the communities, to have town halls. Dr. Fauci has answered every question under the sun. There's all kind of publicly available information. There's nobody saying you cannot have a conversation. Nobody is going to never ask a question again because Nicki Minaj.
All they're doing are asking questions. Go ahead.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
We're in the everybody want to ask questions phase of this whole shit.
Tank.
What are you talking about?
All of them. Yeah, a lot of them have been asking.
If people don't feel comfortable being anti-vax, good. Shut the fuck up. You don't have to make a statement at it. If that's your personal choice, everybody's talking about my personal choice. Your personal choice is to be quiet. And if you speak up and you say something ridiculous and absurd, like what she said, you're going to get pushback on it. Nobody was challenging her or ridiculing her for saying, I have questions about the vaccine. They were ridiculing that ridiculous story, because what always happens, and we've all experienced this with anti-vaxxers or vaccine hesitant or whatever label you want to put on it, where people have that one story. Remember when the vaccine first came out and there were stories about Bell's palsy, and people's faces were frozen as, I'm not getting the vaccine, I'm not trying to have my face frozen, even though there was no evidence that Bell's palsy was a higher incidence rate amongst those that were vaccinated. But they saw one person who had a frozen face and they were all against the vaccine. So these anecdotes actually make a difference, and now what's even more dangerous about this path that she's gone down on is you have people who are following her who are like, well, I'm going to stand with Nicki. I'm not going to take the vaccine. I'm not going to take that. I'm having even more questions now because y'all challenged Nicki Minaj. That's weird. But the last thing I'll say is, maybe she started out not being anti-vax. Maybe she started off under the veil of, oh, I just have questions. But the more that she talks, the more it's clear that she really is against the vaccine. She's definitely given indications that she's a little anti-vax. Nobody is bullying you out of answering questions. But we are not going to accept disinformation and misinformation. I'm glad as a society, we're finally deciding that it's unacceptable. I've been saying this for years about disinformation, but specifically about the vaccine when everybody was talking about equity. And I said, yes, we do have equity access issues to the vaccine. We have accessibility issues, but we have to acknowledge the vaccine hesitancy in our community that's driven by disinformation. And people were poo-pooing me on that, like it was somehow anti-Black to address the vaccine hesitancy. I'm glad people are finally realizing how dangerous disinformation is. She's irresponsible with her platform. All she has to do is retract the information, but no, she wants to double and triple down and be a victim. And you're not a victim, Nicki Minaj. Barb's, you're also not a victim. There's not a crusade against Nicki Minaj. There's also, last thing I would say, not a global conspiracy to conceal testicular explosions and impotence and all this other kind of stuff. There's no conspiracy. Every person who's talking about what happened with the vaccine is using articles that are publicly available or using information from VIERS, which is self-reported, that you can go right on there and look at it. If you can go on the internet and type in a Google search and find the information, guess what? It's not a conspiracy to conceal it because you got it. You're not a special access person. You ain't got a top secret clearance and shit that's really that classified and that secret. You ain't never gonna know a damn thing about it, because anybody who's ever revealed classified information is in jail somewhere. They ain't on goddamn Twitter posting links to some random ass article.
Listen, I said it before, I'll say it again. If the coronavirus vaccine, you know, they don't care about women's bodies. If the coronavirus vaccine caused impotency, someone being impotent, it would be, my God, they would shut it down immediately. They would, women's bodies, whatever. But if it caused somebody being impotent, they would correct that. They would shut it down expeditiously. All right. So it's just funny.
In fairness, though, they did shut down the Johnson & Johnson vaccine when there were several reports. I think there was like a dozen reports of women
of blood clots,
blood clots from women.
Yeah.
Yes. So there was,
that's true.
They discovered it was probably related to birth control or something like that. So in fairness, even as much as people don't give a damn about women generally, when there were reports of even a dozen out of millions of doses administered cases of an effect, and they immediately put a hold on it and got the issue that they gathered the information that they needed, and then they resumed it once they realized that it was safe.
So Ted, your thoughts?
Yeah, so look, it may be likely that her cousin's friend in Trinidad got the vaccine, and it may be likely that her cousin's friend in Trinidad has swollen testicles and can't get it up. It is highly unlikely those two things are related. And the problem is that when she took to her platform, she correlated the two things as if she was just asking a question and being curious. And Twitter is not the place to think out loud. It's just not, it doesn't give you enough grace or space to be curious, especially when you have 22 million followers and it's something as politically polarizing and catastrophic from a public health perspective as coronavirus is and the vaccine. So responsible use of the platform, like Reese said, is what started this. And Nicki Minaj behaving as if she was just a regular person on Twitter, sharing a story from a friend and looking for input when she's actually extremely influential on the platform and sharing information, misinformation about a public health global crisis. And that's a problem. The second thing, though, is, and I think this is where the anger comes out, and here's where I'm going to rely on my sociology and political science training and stuff. Look, when Black folks in America, for sure, the political strategy for Black Americans since the inception of the country has been to bond together in solidarity in order to withstand the horrors of slavery, in order to get through Jim Crow, in order to sort of collect their electoral power to have as much of a voice as possible in politics. And the way the power works is that we have to do it together. When we see Black voters today voting 90% for Democratic candidates, that is the offspring of a socio-political strategy that Black folks have exercised since the beginning, because the group interest is what determines our personal ability to make it in this country. It doesn't matter how many degrees, Malcolm X said this, you can be a doctor, what are they gonna call you? The same thing they don't call you if you were a janitor, same thing they'll call you if you a thug. It doesn't matter what your personal resume looks like if Black people in this country are being oppressed. And so what lots of politicians, political scientists and sociologists have the theory they've uncovered is what they call linked fate, or the Black utility heuristic in sort of geek language. What this means is that for most Black folks, doing what's best for all Black people is the best way to do what's best for you. If you want you and your family to succeed as a Black American in this country, as Black people, then you have to side with the party, side with the policy that is putting Black people's needs and asks first, because your best chance of doing well is attached to the group's chances of doing well. So this is the linked fate thing. Okay, so what happens here is when you have Black folks that decide, I'm gonna put my self-interest above the group interest, there is a social penalty that people pay when they do this. This is where the coon and Uncle Tom language comes from. It's because these are basically Black folks who have decided they're going to go do their own thing instead of looking out for the group. What we see between Nicki Minaj and Joy Reid is Joy Reid saying, you got to be better than this, girl. The group is depending on good, accurate information, people in influential places helping get the word out for the vaccine, because our community is the one that's suffering the most from the pandemic. So don't put out bad information because you're hurting our people. What Nicki Minaj is saying is, don't try to social penalty me. Don't try to degrade me or tell me I'm not putting the group first by just being curious, by just asking questions. And so we are seeing the tension of what happens when we live in a society where oppression of Black people is still present, in a society, in a politics where you only have one rational, reasonable choice when it comes to elections and politicians and parties if you care about civil rights. The tension of that reality up against our personal desire to have agency, to not be treated like a monolith or not be treated like a sheep, and be able to voice our opinions without exacting social penalties because we've decided to voice our personal opinion instead of the group one. These things are bumping up against one another. And so Nicki is mad because people are saying, get in line, toe the line around the vaccine, and in her view. And she's saying, I'm an individual, I'm a person, I don't have to toe the Democratic line, or I don't have to reject all Republicans because of what they think. And the bigger conversation is, in this society, the way Black people have gotten ahead, the way we've managed to survive the horror is by bonding together. And you are hurting that solidarity by speaking out in this way and on this platform. So there's a lot happening underneath this conversation.
But Ted, let me ask you, are people mad that Nicki isn't towing the line? Or are they mad because I think towing the line is one thing, but putting out disinformation,
right,
that's a whole other stunt. So is it towing the line, or it's like, because you're not I have swollen testicles and impotency is a new one for me. Right. So I was with you until you said she's being independent, and it's not even that independent because her cousin's friend in Trinidad said it. So explain to me.
Yeah, so you're right. So towing the line may be a little further than I meant to go, but what I'm saying is she wants to be able to have the freedom to say whatever's on her mind. And what the sort of the social politics of Black America says, that's fine when you're in the beauty salon, the barbershop, church, but when you're out in public, the group interest has to be the thing that sort of governs how you interact, because you have power and influence in terms of your reach and your music and that sort of thing. So I think what a lot of folks, or what Nicki is rejecting, is the idea that she can't disagree publicly. And what Joy Reid, I think, is saying is, you're putting out bad information that is going to hurt our community more than others. And based on our history in this country, that you can't do that. That's irresponsible. And I think Joy is right. And I sympathize with Nicki's desire to be able to be think for herself publicly, but that is not as important to me as Black folks getting vaccinated, that Black folks being protected from this disease. So this only explains the anger, I think, that we're seeing from Nicki Minaj and sort of bucking the system. But this is not a critique on Joy basically voicing that the group interest should dominate, especially on an issue as literally lethal as the coronavirus is to Black folks.
Did you want to add to that, Reese?
Yeah, I mean, here's where I think Nicki Minaj is a complete hypocrite. You can't simultaneously say, I'm an individual, I can march to the beat of my own drum, but also say, cloak yourself under the umbrella of Black woman, and you can't attack me because I'm a Black woman, or my Black womanhood is why you're attacking me. Nicki Minaj is certainly not a person who's known for being particularly gracious towards Black women. She's being sued right now by one of her husband's alleged victims for sexual assault and for harassment, and that's a Black woman. Okay. And so she's full of shit. Let me just make more clear. She's full of shit when she wants to be like, I'm a Black woman, that's why you're attacking me, when she attacks plenty of Black women. If you want to cloak yourself in Black womanhood, then why isn't that you're not amplifying Black women who are experts? I mean, these are people who have blue checks, if that's your thing that you're concerned about. These are people who are on nationally syndicated things. There are people at the White House level that she could amplify. She amplified not nary single one of those Black women who responded to her in a very respectful way. Instead, she amplified a white supremacist. And then you turn around and call Joya Uncle Tommyana, but then you're amplifying a white supremacist, and you say, what's wrong with that? You clowning Joy Reid because she's speaking in front of two white men, but then you turn around and you amplify white supremacy. Like, well, why can't we all just be humans? Okay, so are we all humans, or are you a black woman? Is she Uncle Tom? She bobs and weaves too much. So it's a matter of convenience and excuses as opposed to a worldview that she has. The only worldview that she has is that she's a celebrity and you should be deferential to me. And if you don't, there are consequences. And she has exacted consequences on people time and time again. And that's why she used her following to target people. And the reason why she felt so comfortable going after Joy in that very malicious way is because Joy is a Black woman, because she certainly didn't have energy. She did go at Piers Morgan, but she went at Piers Morgan because he said she was rude, not for him talking about her vaccine stance. Out of all the people, and she was roundly ridiculed, she went after Joy in the most personal terms because she is a Black woman and she knows how unprotected Black women are. So Nicki, you cannot have it both ways. If you want to be, I'm a Black woman, sisters, let's stick together, then keep that same energy and actually be about amplifying and uplifting Black women instead of tearing people down. That's what she did. So you have to pick a lane. You have to pick a lane. I know for me, there are Black women I would love to drag. Out of all the people I done cussed out on video, it is very few. I think I might be one person in particular, and that's because she did something that was too egregious for me. But I didn't even call her a bitch or nothing out of her name, nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? But I extend some degree of grace, a much more grace towards Black women than I do anybody else, because that's what my platform is about. It's about uplifting Black women. So you cannot play the victim, the Black woman, I'm being persecuted, when you constantly target and abuse Black women yourself in the process of abusing a Black woman that did not agree with you, that was very mild in my opinion, and calling her out. You're playing that I'm a Black woman, we should stick together. Nicki, you're full of shit, period. I'm not saying that what you said was wrong, but I'm just saying that Nicki is full of shit.
I get confused when I hear quote unquote conservatives say this. They say, why can't I say what I want to say? I'm being bullied. I can't say this is outside of Nicki, but they say that and they have millions and millions of followers on social media. They say that, and then I see them on Instagram. Like, do y'all know what really happens when you are censored?
Yeah.
Do y'all know what happened to Paul Robeson and Lena Horne when they were censored? Like, y'all really you ranting and you getting some clap back on Twitter is not being censored. I hear all these conservatives say this, and they have a New York Times #1 book. Like that, this is not being censored. Some folks clapping back at you on Twitter, or even a television host saying, I don't agree with this. This is wrong. Even folks are saying that Joanne Reid misquoted her. But I mean, the idea of you're being censored, my freedom of speech. Y'all don't know what being censored looks like. Read up on what Muhammad Ali went through when he refused to fight in the Vietnam War. He lost his boxing license. Y'all don't really know what that. Read up on Ida B. Wells, the way she was censored. I mean, y'all as a journalist. Close us out, Ted.
Yeah, so I mean, and I agree with everything that's been said, and I think what we're seeing from Nicki Minaj's part is she saw Joy Reid as sort of betraying the solidarity of Black women and between two Black women, and she did the very thing that she's accusing Joy of doing to her, which is breaking that solidarity. But when Joy says, Nicki, you might want to think twice about this, attacking Joy, as Reese said, and then using her following, or at least her platform, to exact social penalties on Joy Reid and all like her, because they dare to say that what Nicki was up to wasn't real, wasn't honest, or was intentionally misleading. So this idea of Black solidarity and social penalties was working in both directions. Nicki just sort of leveraged misinformation and anger to blow this point beyond where it needed to be. The other part is, and you're exactly right, Clay, that this isn't censorship, what we're seeing. No. If you can complain on a social media platform or in a best-selling book that you are being persecuted, you're not being persecuted. You are actually exercising constitutional rights that the nation says it was founded on and looks to extend to folks. So there is a moral, there is a social attraction to victimhood right now, especially by those on the right, because it makes them feel as if they ascend to the moral high ground, and it makes them beyond critique by saying I'm being victimized, I'm being persecuted, and they're trying to leverage the persecution that actually happened to Native Americans, to Black folks, to women, to immigrants, as a way of making themselves beyond critique. And it's not genuine. It's just a way of drawing more attention to themselves and sort of crowding out the other voices. That's frankly would accord with much of our history.